Hey, how are you?
How are we gonna solve that problem eventually? Like, just put our names up in lights on the ceiling, something like that. Hey everyone, thank you for being here. I am going to call the Finance Committee meeting of the Metro Board to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move into the Finance Committee minutes and other items, I do want to read a message. So I'm just going to go right into it. I want to acknowledge the tragic incident that occurred Saturday morning aboard a Metro bus that resulted in the tragic loss of life of one of our riders. On behalf of the board and the entire Metro organization, we extend our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the victim and to all those affected by this tragedy. We also want to recognize the swift actions of the bus operator in immediately alerting authorities, as well as the rapid response by the Cincinnati Police Department that led to the apprehension of the suspect. Violence of any kind will not be tolerated on our system. The safety and security of our customers and employees remains our highest priority, and Metro is cooperating fully with law enforcement as the investigation continues. Out of respect for the ongoing investigation, we will not be able to provide any additional details at this time. Okay. Thank you. So let's move into the approval of the Finance Committee minutes.
So moved.
Properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Say left. Or opposed, say left. Any abstentions? Hearing none. The minutes are approved. We only have a few items here, financial results, and then the 2025 fiscal year audit results, and then approval of investment funds, and then new business. So let's look at those financial results. Mr. Walker.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Etheridge. We'll start off here with the same summary that we normally do each month. Total revenue came in at $15.2 million, which was favorable to budget by about $640,000 or 4.4%. The favorability was largely driven by favorable sales tax for the month. For everyone's memory, we go 2 to 3 months in arrears. This is the February actuals that came in greater than budget, so good news there on that front. Total fair revenue was slightly unfavorable, which offset that. But all in all, a good month being $640,000 favorable to the planned budget that we have. Going down to the expenses, you can see those were unfavorable, or we spent more than we expected by almost $350,000 or 2.5%. The slight unfavorability was largely across all lines other than the other line. Wages and benefits continue to be unfavorable, primarily with the headcount that we have, which is all in all good news from an operating standpoint. And then the fuel came in slightly unfavorable this month, but we do have our hedges. So the one thing I want to point out to the group here is that we have 90% hedged. We had about $370,000 in hedge gains for the month that did offset the expense. And like I mentioned, we have 10% that goes naked, or we are unhedged, and then we also have our gasoline that is unhedged that caused that unfavorability on the fuel line. Also, the fuel was pretty volatile during the month. When you look at it just on the headline, the first day of the month it was $4.06 a gallon. Last day of the month it was $4.20. That really doesn't tell the story from a volatility standpoint. The high for the month was on April 7th at $4.48, and then the low was $3.40 on the 17th. So you can just see how quickly it moves up and down. And so thankful and happy as an organization that we are hedged at the 90% level to keep away from all that volatility. Parts and supplies were slightly unfavorable. Primarily that is due to just the timing of the maintenance items that we have. I think you've heard us talk about the work that we're doing to get fixed price contracts here at Metro that will give us price certainty going forward. When we started this process, we had one fixed price contract. Now we have 21. So of the top 100 parts, 21 of those we now have fixed price contracts for. And the 100 parts represent over 60% of our total spend. The team is also looking at an additional, call it 43 parts here in the next few months. So call it by Q4, we plan on having, about 64 of the top 100 parts under a long-term contract, which is great news for us to have that price certainty going forward. You net the numbers together, and you can see we have an operating capital contribution or a surplus of $567,000, which is favorable to the budget by $289,000. Going down to the ridership line, that was favorable to the budget and also favorable to prior year. Not stealing too much from the planning and ops and from marketing, but I guess I will since I'm the first one here on the agenda today. For the month in April, we had 6 days of over 50,000 fixed ride and CPS riders during the week. That was 5 more days than we had the first 3 months combined, with the other day only being was opening day for us. So great news there. A lot of things at play. Great marketing with Brandy's team. I think you'll see I think they have a new slogan, and I'm not going to go through the entire slogan. I'll let her take the glory there, but it starts with dump something. So we're going to dump something here, and Brandy's going to help us with that. But so great news there to see our ridership numbers where they are. Next page, Natalie. This is the slide that I like to go through just on the year-to-date, focusing on the right side. You can see our total ridership, while unfavorable to our budget, which we've talked about the first few months, it's greater than it was last year during the first 4 months. Total revenue coming in at $56.7 million, which is favorable to the budget by about $112,000. Want to highlight, as I mentioned before, we have 2 months of actuals for the sales tax data, so that's trending well. Going down to the expense line, you can see a lot of black numbers there and only one red number year to date. The red number is in the wages and benefits, which we've talked about the first 4 months. But going down to the bottom, you can see the total operating capital contribution right now is $221,000 for the first 4 months. And that compares to the budgeted loss we expected of $82,000. So we're favorable by over $300,000 to the planned budget for the first 4 months. Next page, Natalie. Here's our favorite sales tax slide. You can see January and February, as I mentioned, are the actuals. Both of those are favorable compared to prior year, continuing to trend well. And we always keep a close eye on this data here because it does represent about 70% of our total revenue as an organization. Next page, Natalie. Again, this is to really just frame everything that we have $121 million in our operating account, but it's not something that we can spend tomorrow. We have obligations and commitments for this year and for years outside of 2026 that we highlight in the middle there. The bottom line there shows that we have a positive cash number after our known obligations are spent. And that's all I have for the finance report. Any questions from the committee here? All right, thank you, everyone.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chair. When it comes to the wages and fringes line, as Tim mentioned, we are slightly unfavorable to budget so far year to date by 1.9%. But as mentioned, we actually have our fixed route operator headcount above budget, above the budgeted number for the first time, I think, since the 2010s, which is an incredible feat from the team, both on the recruitment side, the HR side, the training side, and the retention piece as well. So a massive amount of work to get to that point. You'll see when we move to ridership and service quality that there is a direct benefit there as well. So just congratulations to the team for the massive amount of work to make that happen.
I'll clap for that. Yeah. Good job. And yeah, we will see that in the operations or hidden goals that we've been working towards for many, many years, which is great. Okay, thank you very much for the finance report. We do have the 2025 fiscal year results and from Crow, but I'm sorry. Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today to talk through the audit and the audit process. As you can see, we have a lot of different items here on our agenda to cover. We're kind of going to go through a quick summary of the audit in total, where we started, where we were going, where we are now, and then a quick financial statement discussion on the year-end results. So we'll start here with the engagement team. And I'm happy to say that we had a repeat of last year's team as well, so no significant new people introduced. I'm Christine Torres, the engagement partner. Happy to be here and on site during the field work for a few days just to visit with your team and do things in person. We have a subcontractor that we also use as required by the state of Ohio, and they have been wonderful to work with as well. So we have a very robust team that really has gotten into the details here of understanding your organization and continuing from year to year. On our next slide, we have just a quick recap of the different roles and responsibilities. So we're here today to present to you the oversight, the high-level view of the audit itself. Management is in charge of the details of the financial statements and your control structure. They're the ones who's responsible to making sure that compliance is happening with all laws, regulations, and the amounts presented are accurate and fully supported. And Crow, in our responsibilities, what we're here to do is to express an opinion on those financial statements that management put together, as well as do an audit under federal standards to make sure that the grants are being spent appropriately, and then provide all of our conclusions here to the board today. On our next slide, we have the engagement objectives, which really just outlines what we follow when we go through the audit. What we're looking for is to provide reasonable assurance that there's no material misstatements within those financial statements and that they're materially correct. As an audit, we cannot get to every transaction, every detail, every amount within those records, as you have millions of them happening throughout the year. So what we are doing is looking at all of that put together in a combined effect and looking at what's reasonable here. We do look at your control structure to make sure we understand what's in place and how it's operating. And as we go through, we'll talk about whether or not we had any issues through that process. On our next slide, we talk a little bit about the scope of services. Pretty straightforward and no changes from the prior year. We're giving the independent auditor's report on the financial statements, as well as an internal control opinion on financial reporting and how those numbers roll up, as well as a report on compliance for your federal programs. And that includes internal control over compliance as well. We don't have a current management letter for this fiscal year, which would be anything that would fall outside of those reports. On our next slide, we talk a little bit here about our approach. We're at all times looking at things objectively as a fresh start each fiscal year. We take what we've learned in the past and continue to build on it. We're understanding what controls have changed and updated throughout this process and always adjusting our risk assessment as we go through, just based on the findings that we found. Our substantive testing is really when we're looking at that year-end balances and making sure all of those items are complete. On the next slide is a little bit about our timeline. It is a long audit process for all of those involved. We do start way back before your year end in November and December so that we can understand what has happened throughout the majority of the year and start to provide our requests to management. We also do some interim work where we look at controls as they've been through that time period and begin our federal grant compliance testing so that we can get a lot of that testing done up front. Then through March and May is when we're doing our year-end procedures, when all of the financial statements are coming together and we're reviewing that draft. And then here at the end of May and early June is when we finalize all of the reports and issue them for compliance with state requirements as well. One thing that we do emphasize as we go along is our independence throughout the process. We're always looking at the different requirements that are required under the Code of Conduct as well as government auditing standards. We're checking to make sure that any services we're providing to you are independent, and we have not done any prohibited non-audit services during this past fiscal year. On our next slide, we talk a little bit here about just significant risks. And these are both risks that are required by auditing standards, and they're common on every engagement. It's different areas that we have to provide specific procedures over, the first being the risk of override of your controls. So we're looking to see where management may have not followed the standard control process and making sure that there's still support for that and that approvals were obtained during that process. And then the second is revenue recognition. Really just making sure that grants are being recognized when appropriate. So when grant agreements are fully signed by both parties and fully implemented with expenses as well. As we went through this process this year, we had no issues with either of these significant risks, or nothing rose to the attention that any errors or items were identified as a result. On our next slide, we talk a little bit about our key accounting estimates. And what these represent are different areas where management has implemented some judgment in what's recorded and how it's recorded, just based on things changing over time, and they're more of a longer term items. So example, allowance for doubtful accounts. All of those are the receivables that are coming in. There's always going to be at some point something that doesn't get paid quickly, appropriately, and an allowance is set for that. Those exact amounts that aren't going to be paid, of course, aren't known until well into the future. So that's just really based on prior year history. What people take in sick time is another one of those estimates that just looks at over a shorter term process right now. And then as we build data, we'll get more and more accurate with that estimate. The rest of these are pretty similar to last year, and no significant items were found as we went through our estimate testing. Always materiality is taken into consideration as we do our testing. We're looking at the larger transactions, but we are also looking at items that fall under our materiality levels as well, just to make sure that all processes are being followed throughout all of the financial statement recording items. On our next slide, we talk here a little bit about just the financial statements themselves and where the numbers ended up at year end. So this is a quick snapshot of just the assets and deferred outflows. Pretty similar as we go. You can see that there's been some nice increases in your total assets from year to year here. And really the significant increase from 2024 to 2025 is really in your investment line item, with an increase in your U.S. agency bonds. So that is just the cash coming in and being reinvested there and continuing to grow over time. Our next slide talks a little bit about the liabilities and the net position at year end. And the biggest change here is really in those current liabilities, with an increase in the amounts that are due to the FTA based on a plan schedule. So those amounts here are increased in that current liabilities line. But all in all, no significant changes in net position. Year over year, you stay very similar. Our next slide here talks more on the operating side. So we have our revenues, and you can see for the fiscal year ends, your passenger fares were pretty steady. There was about a 2% increase from fiscal year 24 to 25, and that was really due to increased services and ridership year over year. The operating expenses themselves here just below that, you'll see an increase, and that's really due of about 8%. And that's really due to increases in the labor and benefit costs throughout the year, as well as transit infrastructure payments. All of those were planned and considered normal, and nothing out of the ordinary as we look through that section here. Our next slide talks about the non-operating revenues and expenses. And the largest change here is really just that FTA expense that has been recorded down in that non-operating revenues and expense section. But nothing, again, that was unusual or different or caused to any sort of concern here. And the change in net position is really just almost a break-even point with where everything fell for the fiscal year. So all in all, in good health, the organization for the fiscal year. Our next slide talks about the results of the services, and really this is probably the most important slide out of everything I'm here to present. It has really the big recap of what our results were, and I'm happy to say that the audit itself has an unmodified opinion, so no qualifications, no exclusions, nothing that could not be fully supported by management, and that is really the best opinion you can get. I'm happy to say that as we looked at your control structure as well, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, so that means no items of concern as we went through that process. For your major programs and federal testing, the federal transit cluster was the cluster that we tested for this fiscal year, and here again, no issues, no non-compliance, and no issues in controls as well. So as a result, no findings that management has to follow up on that will be filed, and no significant items to bring to your attention. So really a very good audit overall as we went through this process. Just a couple more things required by standards to go through, so we'll move on to the next slide. There was just one standard that required adoption during this year, 102. No significant impact, so I'm happy to say no restatements, no significant changes to your numbers or your disclosures. Our next slide talks about the corrected or uncorrected misstatements, which, as you can see, there were none in both of these categories, which is absolutely where you want to be. If you had a corrected misstatement, that would mean that there was something went wrong throughout the reporting process, and we would have had a finding as well. So excellent news that there's no misstatements here for me to report today. Our next slide is talking a little bit here about I think we skipped one. There we go. If we had any unusual transactions, difficulties with management, disagreements, if we had to go outside of the normal audit process to consult with any experts or any significant related party items, we would bring those to your attention. And I'm happy to say we had none of those during this audit. So nothing here to report as well. On our next slide, we talk a little bit about fraud, and as we went through this process and as we do our testing, we're always looking for any signs of fraud. We're testing to make sure everything is fully supported, that if we had any issues as we went through, we would have immediately brought it up to your attention, and happy to say that there was nothing here that we identified as an indicator or any direction towards any fraud or anything that was misconstrued. Of course, an audit is not all-consuming. We talked about how we don't look at every transaction. There could always be something, but nothing that gave us any indication that there was. And then really, just following up on this, on the last slide that I have here today, is thought I would just give you some highlights into what's happening for the next fiscal year. Your statements will look a little bit different next year. GASB 103 is coming into play. And what they've done is they've changed your management discussion and analysis requirements, splitting into some new sections and some new requirements, and hopefully to bring things a little bit cleaner to you. And your income statement will be updated. They are implementing a new section called non-capital subsidies, so you'll see some reclassifications into that area and a new statement in the next fiscal year. If at the end of next year you have any assets held for sale, there's some specific disclosures that will be added around that situation. So that is something that we'll have to look at next year to see if anything is outstanding at the end of the year. As we continue to go forward, there is a focus on federal grant compliance, and the uniform guidance has updated its sampling procedures for the next fiscal year that requires more samples be selected. So welcome to management, and thank you for them already in advance for additional items that we will be selecting next year as we go through the process. Previously, when we did our testing, we would select a sample of expenses. We would test that sample for both controls to make sure approvals were in place, as well as compliance, that it met the grant requirements. And the new standards say you can't use that same sample for both of those testings. So we get to pick 2 samples, one for controls and one for compliance. So that is something that's going into effect for your next fiscal year. So just a quick recap there of some things to look forward to over the next year. So I will just stop there. But again, I just want to say thank you to everyone here. The entire team is excellent to work with, responds quickly to our questions, really provides a lot of information and gives us access to so many different departments as we go through this process. So it's really been a great audit this year.
Thank you for that presentation and for working with the team, and certainly like the results of that
Yes.
audit. That's fabulous. Anybody from the board have questions? Andy, you have a comment?
Just to recognize Tim and the entire finance team, a ton of work. As you see, this started back in November, continues through today and past today. So just wanted to recognize the incredible finance team, I think many of whom are here with us today.
I think we could clap for this too, if you guys want to. Excellent work. Thank you so much.
All
And
right.
look forward to seeing you again next year.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Etheridge. We'll go through here on the left. You can see this is our operating fund. Right side is the infrastructure fund. 121 million and change on the operating side, 174 million on the infrastructure side. Yields are staying strong compared to any benchmarks. You can see total yield on the operating fund is a little over 4%. On the infrastructure fund, a little bit less than 4%. But all in all, nice holding onto the yield, uncertain what the yield environment is going to look like. But we are managing that along with our expected outflows on the infrastructure fund. You can see the 30+ million sitting up there in an overnight account in anticipation of future outflows and reimbursements. Any questions on this report? All right, thank you, everyone.
Just looking around one more time. All right. Thank you very much. And that is all our agenda items. Is there any new business? Oh, yeah, we got
Move
an
approval.
action item on it. Yeah. So sounds like Pete moved approval. Can I have a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is this a voice vote? I am standing in for the committee chair today, so I'm a little out of practice. So, well, thank you so much. I was doing a good job. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say left. Any abstentions? Abstained? Okay. One abstention, and it's approved. It's not a consent agenda item because there's only one item for the full board. Okay. New business? All right. Finance meeting is over. Let's roll right into planning and ops. Right at 9 o'clock.
Nailed it. The screen says
Perfect.
9:01, so you know. We'll,
A minute
it's
later.
all right. Well, we're gonna begin our meeting at 9 o'clock based on those clocks.
Thank you,
Since
finance
we
team.
already did the Pledge of Allegiance, we will move straight to the approval of last month's minutes. Hopefully, everyone had a chance to review. Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Etheridge, second. Second by Ms. Amat. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. I'm going to pass it off to the executive team for the good news.
All right, good morning. So I'm going to review the March. All right, is that better? Okay. I'll review the March Silver Wheel winners, starting with the leadership winner, which is Roger Connors. Roger is a division supervisor with us, and he is just being recognized for all the work he did during the time change when we sprung forward here recently, and the responsibility he took to just ensure that operations continued to move smoothly as we saw the time change, so that there was no change in the reliability of service and just making sure things continue to move on. Next, we have admin employee Nicole Underwood. Nicole is in our dispatch department and is being recognized just really for the work she does to support both our internal and our external customers. She's a really good employee, no absences, discipline, no issues whatsoever in terms of customer complaints. She's always willing to stay extra time to make sure that there is sufficient coverage in the dispatch area. So congratulations to Nicole. Next, we have Queensgate operator, excuse me, Bala Nyang. He is known as a passenger favorite. He gets regular commendations from all of his regular passengers for just his happy demeanor and attitude, and he is well-liked and always a smiling face in the garages and in the club room, and he has a clean safety record. He's been with us just over 3 years and no accidents whatsoever. Next, we have, let's see, Cody. So we've got Cody Baylock. Cody is with the Bond Hill Maintenance Department, been with us about 10 years. And Cody is just being recognized for the work that they do for helping other A-rates. So they have served kind of as a mentor to other A-rates and always willing to pass down the knowledge that they have relative to working on the buses and the skills that you need to be able to get those types of things, the work done on the buses specifically. And we have a slide missing, so I apologize in advance, but there are a few others I just want to recognize. We have a Queensgate maintenance employee who I recognize as Patrice Edwards. And Patrice is a hostler and a fueler for us and is being recognized for her professionalism. And she's a mentor to all of our new employees as they come on board in the hostler area and maintenance. She is recognized for she is always doing the work to keep the buses pristine and in great condition, and she is the special request that is made when we've got special assignments for our buses to ensure the buses are spotless. So congratulations to Patrice. And then we had Bond Hill operator Jaquana Montgomery. And Jaquana is just being recognized for all the help she did during the Golden Bus Awards. I mean, we didn't even ask for volunteers, but she stepped up to volunteer to make sure that individuals were greeted as they came into the award ceremony. And so we just want to thank her for all the work she did there to support everyone. And then finally, we have our access employee, Greg Sanders. Greg is just being recognized for the work that he's done, always positive, always helpful, and assisting with the original launch of our Easy Connect service and the work he did there, and to just build positive relationships with all of our customers. So congratulations to all of our March Silverware winners.
All right, thank you, Adrian. It's Bike and Ride during Bike Month. In celebration of National Bike to Work Day, we offered free rides on our fixed route system to anybody that used a bicycle and loads it onto our bike racks. As a reminder, each fixed route bus has a front-mounted rack that can hold up to 2 bikes at one time, and we were very happy to participate in the Breakfast on the Bridge event hosted by Tri-State Trails on the Purple People Bridge. Participants learn how easy it is to commute when you bike and ride on Metro.
Good morning. About this time last year, the board requested that we work closely with Red Bike to enhance the service and the connectability and helping with the first and last mile connections between biking and using Metro. And so we're proud to share that just recently, Red Bike is now inside of the Transit app. So when customers look to plan a trip using Transit, they can see where the Red Bike stations are located, how many bikes are available, and how many dock stations are available, as well as that planning information to connect to a Metro route. And so as this program continues to grow, we will collect information from Red Bike that will help us better analyze how our customers are using both systems to connect on that first and last mile service. So we're really excited about that partnership, and we'll continue to support each other as we grow.
If I may just add one thing here. Thank you, Brandy. And yeah, this has been something that we've been looking forward to for so long, and it's a great addition to the transit app. I just want to, a lot of work went into this from so many different people, but I want to highlight Steve and Nick. Nick really took the lead on that for the past 6-7 months, working diligently with both transit app and Red Bike. And it wasn't just coordination. It was, giving them the information and figuring out how it's going to work, what kind of data we want, and so on. So it was a pretty, concentrated effort there. Great job. Thank you.
All right, so thank you to Tim, who did a little teaser for me earlier, but we are dumping the pump and encouraging everyone to ride Metro. As we watch our gas prices continue to surge, we are proud to say that Metro's fare is fixed at just $2.20, and it's a great alternative for anyone who's looking to park their car and use public transit. And we're excited to share that we're seeing a lot of people do just that. In April, compared to March, we saw a 10% increase in ridership on our commuter routes, our express trips, and system-wide, we saw about a 4% increase. So we're really excited for the trend that we're seeing, and we look forward to all those customers who were incentivized to get on board because of gas prices to continue riding, even when they go down, because they would have discovered just how easy it is to use Metro each and every day. And what you see on the screen is some of our new ads. These are on billboards. So we are capitalizing on the moment and striking while it's hot and reminding of the community of the alternative to driving their personal vehicle.
All right, hard to follow Dump the Pump, but we'll try. Fun fact, Leadership Ohio, the only statewide leadership program. If you learn something new every day, there you go. Your streak continues. Leadership Ohio was fortunate to find that Metro is the way to go for the participants. So on their visit here, Metro helped them get them around. We also took the opportunity to present on Metro Rapid and our TOD opportunities, and really speaking to the role that public transit plays in spurring economic development, certainly in this region as well. And hopefully the participants took the lessons learned here to take back to their own corners of the state. So thank you, Leadership Ohio, for the visit. I believe our own Dan Driehaus is an alum of Leadership Ohio. So there you go. All right, let's look back to the Flying Pig and celebrate Pig Abilities. So we partnered with Pig Abilities to provide transportation for those they serve to access their 1 mile event designed for participants and supporters of the participants to run, walk, or roll, I love that, at their own pace, so they can cross the official Flying Pig Marathon Finish Swine. It's called the Finish Swine? Is that right? Finish Swine. If you put it on the slide, I'm going to read it. So we're very happy to have participated in the event, and just want to share this special feedback here we got from Jenny Hartman. Jenny wanted to thank Metro. She reached out. Her daughters Carly and Hannah. Hannah has disabilities, and they relied on Metro for the first time in many years, and just really raved about their experience, raved about their driver. For those of us that know Jenny and family, this was certainly something very special to receive and hear, and frankly, it's why we do what we do. So thank you to everybody that made our participation in the Pig Abilities event a very good success. Why not one last look back at that electric bus, huh? That's the news, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on any of the items covered? No? All right. We will move over to the ridership and service quality report. Mr. Schmoot.
All right, thank you. Ridership, I mean, what else to be said about this? Between Tim and Brandy and so on, but this is great news, and I'm gonna take a couple minutes actually to talk about this as well. So for the month of April, we had almost a record of 1.25 million trips, higher than budget by 2.2% and almost 4% higher than last year's. So as I said, I'm going to take a couple minutes just to highlight a couple of things here, because this is really phenomenal. You heard them say that we had 6 days with 50,000 or greater ridership. And you heard, some of the great things that Brandy mentioned about the ridership and so on. But I think this is, and certainly, gas prices have a big thing to do with this. But I think this highlights how well this organization operates and think and plans. I think my staff are going to hate me for saying this, but it goes back to the infinite game, where you need to make the investments when we don't need them. And it goes across the entire agency. For someone, obviously, since we're having 50 and 51,000, rides, it means that, we have quite a few new riders who never rode. And the fact that that number was sustained through the whole month, so they were repeat users and riders. So they found the system to be efficient, useful, and that's why they came back and again. And one thing of which we're proud here at SORTA is we don't react, we're proactive, which is the infinite game mentality. So for the past year or so, we've been making improvements on the hiring. As you heard earlier, we have a record pool of drivers, which is reducing the missed trips, right? So that's improved quality of service. The planning department has been, improving the network, making it more efficient and more reliable, and so on. That also helped. Marketing, people need to know about the service, so they're doing, the marketing. Operations, certainly, making sure that drivers are behind the seats, getting good training. We're hiring, and of course, we can't forget about our CFO because we need that money to pay for all of that. So all of this didn't happen after gas prices went up. It's been going on for the past months and months and months. And when things changed, gas prices in this case, the service was there. Reliability was there. And that's why people start using it, not only once, but came back and again. So I just want to highlight that. This is a testimony for the entire agency on the, how we're operating. Next slide, please. And I promise I won't spend that much time on each slide. Access ridership, again, we see that trend going up, almost 16,000 trips, about on budget and higher than last year by 1.7%. Next slide. Metro now went slightly in a different direction. We had about 14,771 trips, lower than budget. But that wasn't really very surprising because that's the trend. In April, looking at last year, same thing. In April and May, ridership kind of dips slightly, and we're seeing the same trend here. Next slide. Yep. Productivity, since ridership went up and not much change to the service hours on fixed route, we expect productivity to go up, and that's really what we see here. 16.7 passengers per hour on fixed route, higher than the budget by 1.2. Express also saw a significant increase, and that's where we saw actually quite a bit of increase on ridership during the month of April, about 14% increase in our express service. And hence, productivity is at 10.2 passengers per hour. And access at 1.89 passengers per hour versus the budget of 2. Metro now, again, because ridership went down and we had added quite a bit of service hours for the new 2 new zones, productivity is at 3.4 passengers per hour versus the budget of 3.8. Next slide. Since Bill is not here, I'm covering his slides. On-time performance, there was a dip in the on-time performance for the month of April. We don't know exactly what are the main causes for that. We suspect one cause, but not necessarily the main driver, is the increased ridership. So buses are dwelling a little bit longer, but definitely that's not accounting for the majority of that drop. But we're still looking into what other factors may have caused that drop. Next slide. Access on-time performance still doing great and actually improved. at 92.6%, higher than budget, which is at 92%. Next slide. Same thing for Metro now. On-time performance was at 99.4. Again, higher than the budget of 97%. Fixed route service reliability, I kind of alluded to that earlier. We had 375 missed trips, which translate to completing 99.5% of all trips. And as you can see, it is the highest completion for the past couple of years. And this is, again, due to the great effort that's been done by HR operations and so on in recruiting and getting more and more drivers ready. Customer service report, there was a spike in that. It's at 32.3 per 1,000 rides compared to the target of 25. Operations, customer service are, sifting through these just to see what, were the main issues there. But keep in mind that these are the raw numbers of reports that we receive. They're not validated. It's just the total number that we receive. Next slide. And finally, improvements on the reliability in terms of miles between mechanical interruptions. For the month of April, we were just below the target at 8,727 miles versus the target of 9,200 miles. Any questions?
Going back to the one slide, the customer service reports, does that include positives, negatives, neutral reports in that number? Is it just anything that comes in?
Anything that comes in.
Okay. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, although we would want to understand, is the surge?
The number, the increase is related to increase in complaints. So we're looking through to see if there are any trends there. Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No. Thank you. It's a good month. Metro Rapid update. I think we're staying with you, Mr. Shamut.
Oh, if I may, just Metro Rapid. Yeah. So Sharon is out for personal reasons, and so we have Bradley here, who's going to do a portion of the presentation, and then our consultant Paul from HCR will do the other half. But before Brad speaks, I just want to share some really good news that SHPO, which is the State Historical Preservation Office, approved our application, which is a really, really major step in moving forward with this project. This is related to the environmental assessment on the Reading. This is just for the Reading corridor. Hamilton is, a few months behind, but this is a really major step, and it shows that all the work, all the hard work, and the sweat and blood in some cases that went into this really paid off. This is a huge step moving forward.
That's a huge deal. Congratulations,
that,
Mr. Mason.
Great. Good morning. Happy to be here pinch hitting for Sharon today. And we'll dive into some of our public engagement efforts. As we all know, public engagement is a pillar of this project, and it is really driving forward the decision making as we move forward with the project. So this past month, we were at several locations. First, the Women's Transportation Seminar Luncheon, April 14th at Fishbeck offices. April 19th, we were at Greater Cincinnati Earth Day, where we saw 359 visitors come to our booth there. So we were very pleased with that effort. The Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise was this past weekend. I'm getting more information on exactly how many people visited our booth there. And then just last night, we were back in Clifton again at the ad hoc committee meeting. Some upcoming events that we have, we'll be out at community councils in Corryville, and then we have a pending date on June 9th as well for North Avondale. And we'll be hitting a lot of the community councils over the next coming months. As I said, we had a great turnout at the Earth Day event, and some of the sentiment from there, and great news. Over 50% of the people that we talked to had heard of Metro Rapid or BRT. So the word is getting out there. People are getting educated on it. And what we've heard mostly is they're positive and very excited about this project. I won't read all of them, but there's some comments down there that we heard from some of the folks. They're worried about current traffic in Hamilton and Chase and how BRT will affect it there in Northside. They recommended adding to our FAQ that you can be home by dinner, which I think is something we all strive for. And then finally, they look forward to having a variety of ways to pay, not just with apps. So we continue to get great feedback from the community as we're out and about. Speaking of public engagement, we have collaborated with Clifton tremendously over the past couple of years, and here's a rundown of some of the engagements that we've had with them. We've had 6 stakeholder advisory group meetings total, 7 meetings between Metro, the city, and the Clifton Town Meeting, which acts as their community council, the Clifton Business Association, and the ad hoc committee meeting. Overall, we've received 42 public and stakeholder comments regarding the Clifton location. And I'm proud to say that we've been at 253 public meetings and events along both BRT routes. So when we say public engagement, we're serious about it. And then finally, 3 Clifton Town meetings that we attended, and we presented on February 24th. So through that engagement with the folks in Clifton, two station option locations presented themselves. The first would be an option on Ludlow Avenue. And the second, which was put forth by the ad hoc committee, would be on Clifton Avenue in front of the Shell station. And what we heard through our engagement process is they have a desire for convenient BRT access in their neighborhoods. Safety is always a top priority. The businesses are concerned about blocking storefronts, loading zones, and existing Metro UC buses. There's concerns over traffic congestion, as you can imagine, and interest in preserving traffic calming. On the option 1, there was concern over stopping in the street at the Clifton location. And then for option 2, there was concerns about the proximity close to the Good Samaritan location, which would be right up the road and would cause concerns for efficiency. So we responded. We were happy to get all that feedback. We listened and we responded by removing bus lanes from Ludlow within the business district. We shifted Ludlow Avenue stations away from the storefronts, bumped out stations, studied additional alignment options for option 2. So we really dove in on that with engineering and traffic analysis. We reduced the canopy size from 50 feet to 20, so the footprint shrunk on the Ludlow option 1. And then we introduced some safety measures too. And then finally, we evaluated the fixed route changes. We continue to evaluate fixed route changes to reduce the total number of bus stops along Ludlow Avenue. And then we also met with other community partners in the area like Good Sam and the Cincinnati Firehouse, which is on the corner of Clifton and Ludlow. So with that, all that public input, we take it, put it into action with some technical analysis, and I'll turn it over to Paul Durham from HDR to go over that.
Thanks. You'll see on your screen engineering drawing or conceptual drawing of the Ludlow Station Avenue option number 1. The pink boxes are the actual station locations. So on Ludlow, they'd be on the sides of the street. The westbound would be on the top left, and then the eastbound or southbound would be on the bottom right. As Brad mentioned, we have made we've done a lot of engineering surrounding the feedback we got from the community. So we've shifted the station locations from the original locations to minimize visual impact to storefronts, put them in areas and bump them out further into the roadway so that we would not be constricting pedestrian access. Also reduce the size, as Brad mentioned. And then a couple key points I have in icons at the bottom there. So related to pedestrian vulnerability, on Ludlow Avenue, the speed limit is 25. There's not quite 10,000 cars a day, and the crossing distance for a pedestrian crosser from one side of the street to the other is between 32 and 42 feet. So in this case, we see, compared to option 2, this is much safer for a station location in relation to pedestrian crossings. With this option, there would be 4 trees removed, but also replaced with the project. There's a net loss of 3 parking spaces. 6 would be removed, 3 would be added. This was one of the concerns of the business association. But on a positive note, there are no signed loading zones that are impacted. Some of the technical details related to option 2. Again, you can see 2 pink boxes. The pink box on the left is actually the Good Samaritan proposed station location. The hospital is just off the left side of the screen there. And then the pink box on the right side would be the proposed option 2, the Clifton Ludlow station. You can see it's in the center of the roadway, so the configuration would be quite a bit different. This would put all riders who are wanting to ride the BRT having to cross one leg of the street or the other to get onto the platform. One of the major concerns with this station option is just the proximity it is to the Good Samaritan station. It's about 500 feet, which doesn't really capitalize on the investment we're making at each of these station locations. This close proximity also reduces the overall travel time of the bus. It actually adds about 40 seconds just in the fact that the bus can't accelerate to full speed between the two station locations. One of the other concerns with this one is just the proximity of the station with the left-hand turn lane turning northbound left onto Ludlow Avenue. I've added the same graphics there at the bottom. This one wouldn't have any tree impacts. There'd be no additional parking impacts needed for this particular station. We are able to preserve the firehouse loading zone. So Cincinnati Fire Station number 34 is at the corner of Clifton and Ludlow. They have a very crucial parking space in front of their firehouse there for their paramedic units and other reasons as well. So that would be preserved. And then you can see that same pedestrian icon. The speed limit is higher on Clifton Avenue. There are more cars and the crossing width is wider, making it just technically making pedestrians more vulnerable. The last piece we looked at, and probably looked at this most comprehensively, was the traffic analysis. If you want to go to the next slide. We've done a detailed traffic analysis process, starting with collecting the existing traffic count information. This is done on weekday morning during the school year. We've taken those traffic counts, we've done existing traffic modeling, and then we've calibrated that by going back out in the field and making sure the queue lengths that we're observing in the field match our analysis in the existing condition. And then we've used multiple traffic analysis softwares to actually model the proposed conditions for both stations with the proposed project. And last but definitely not least, on the right there, we have done this in coordination with the City of Cincinnati Department of Transportation Engineering. So they've been a great partner in this and reviewed our analysis and corroborated throughout this whole entire process. The results of the traffic analysis show that with the BRT, vehicular delays remain very similar with either station option. So there's a change of less than 20 seconds in either direction at either station because of the proposed project. I'll note point number one there that traffic signal improvements were incorporated into the design. So there are some existing inefficiencies that we're able to correct with the project. All traffic signals on Clifton and Ludlow in this area do operate at an acceptable level of service with either option as well. So from a traffic standpoint, really the takeaways are there's less than 20 seconds additional delay. Everything works acceptably. And then, as I mentioned on the previous slide, that the BRT travel time is about 40 seconds longer with the Clifton station option. The icons at the bottom, again, just kind of bringing up some important points to consider. You can see in the middle there, the BRT dwell time is 10 to 15 seconds, which is less than the local bus. It's less than a pedestrian crossing, a parallel parking maneuver, or the typical red times on the signals on Ludlow Avenue. So you can see just the dwell time that we're achieving by the level boarding and off-board fare collection, some of those components, is very quick and shouldn't have a huge impact on traffic.
All right, after taking all the public engagement and technical analysis into consideration, the Clifton Town Meeting voted to support option 1 on April 6th, and that was after strong community preference at public engagement sessions on February 24th and March 2nd. So along with that, with their motion that they put forth for supporting option 1, they requested continued community engagement with Metro, which of course we're happy to provide. And that community engagement did continue last night, as I mentioned earlier. And they presented us some ideas for station refinements with option 1. One of those was also included looking at the idea of a center station in that area on Ludlow Avenue. So we're going to continue those conversations, but ultimately the recommendation is to move forward with the station location on Ludlow Avenue in the Clifton Business District. With that, that concludes the Metro Rapid update.
Thank you all for this. Mr. Durham, can I confirm one thing that I think is true? There are pedestrian safety improvements at Clifton and Ludlow, regardless of whether the station went in that location, including the elimination of the slip turn lane onto Jefferson. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So even though we are recommending moving forward at the business district adjacent location, those pedestrian improvements remain in the project.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. With option one, obviously we're making pedestrian improvements surrounding the stations on Ludlow Avenue, trying to shorten crosswalks by putting in bump outs and some other things. But then, as we are traveling on Clifton Avenue as well, we will be making pedestrian improvements there too.
Good.
Yep.
That's helpful.
Yep.
I think folks know this is my neighborhood, and pedestrian safety at Clifton and Ludlow is maybe the most important topic for a lot of folks in that neighborhood. So as we continue that engagement, the more we can work with the city to refine and continue to improve that intersection, even though there won't be a station there, I think it will go a very long way with folks in the neighborhood. And just thank you all for the engagement. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd just love to thank the team for your ongoing work over these last many, many months with the engagement work and also the deep analysis into studying these options. I know this has been a very high priority for the Clifton neighborhood and for us, obviously, and this has just been a lot of work, and I appreciate all of the deep dive. I especially love this slide 13 showing the the time differences with all these different options, or the BRT dwell compared to everything else. That's really helpful to know. So I'm excited about this and happy to support this location.
Is there anything you need from us as you move forward in this process?
No, I don't. I think that we want to keep the project team and the board aligned, right? And so this is one of the many, many decisions that the project has to make to get from 30% design to 60% design. And this was one that, as we've gone to each of these station locations, a lot of them just fell into place and they made a lot of sense. We've had, as you know, 2 or 3 along the route where there's been a lot of engagement and maybe not 100% agreement as to where it goes. So when those come up, we just want you to know what engagement we did, know where the project is moving, and so on and so forth. So I don't think we need any action from the board other than if there are folks who still have questions and still have concerns, send them to us so we can walk through this analysis with them.
Yeah.
It may be slightly off topic, but I went to this presentation and I just wanted to make sure that we were connected with the Office of Innovation, with the city. They are doing a project on improved transportation, and they did quite a bit of intensive surveying of community members. I believe Josh is the director of the department, and Nia. So I just wanted to make sure, because they picked a particular project around improving transportation, and I know they're looking into electric bikes and things like that.
Correct. We had a great conversation with Josh. We were at City Hall last week on Tuesday, even an update to the committee, and Josh was there to present on the project that they're working on with electric bikes, and we had a conversation, and we'll keep that discussion going. We'll reach out to them about their survey. Thank you.
Any other Metro Rapid questions, conversation? All right, thank you all. We're going to move on to Government Square. Mr. Aiello?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Metz, I'll start a couple pieces. Weekly quality of life meetings continue amongst all the partners. We're getting near the end of the school year, which will change our staffing profile once school is out. It's been a great year by all accounts. We continue to see the number of students transferring at Government Square at that low level. It's been below 200 every afternoon, which is coming from a high of over 400 a couple of years ago, which means that there's just more direct travel. As we see the same number of students getting to and from school, they're doing so in a more direct manner, which was the goal. There's a weekly quality of life meeting for folks that are on the ground every day, and then there's a monthly manager meeting. Interim Chief Henney attended our last meeting and had very good things to say about the communication and the relationship, so we'll keep that going. If you recall, this board passed a motion back in October to do a deeper dive in terms of studying the physical structure of Government Square and the urban space surrounding it. You will see in the action items matrix that procurement for an architecture engineering firm is for your consideration today. That would be where we begin that work to, one, do peer analysis, what we see across the country in terms of downtown transit centers, and start to conceptualize what should Government Square look like, and then do that in a engaged way with all of the stakeholders around the table. So that is the next significant action to be taken with respect to Government Square. Again, Bill's not here today. Happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Any questions? I know we'll move on to that action item here in a minute, so.
I just wanted to make sure, or just ask, are we in communications with CPS? I'm thinking, and I could be totally wrong, just based on their chronic absenteeism data, that maybe some of the less traffic on Government Square for students is because kids are not going to school. So, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think what we've seen this year is we've seen a couple things. Overall, CPS ridership on Metro is just slightly down from where it was last year. But we've also seen, as you know, we served 12 more schools this year. We've seen a lot more direct travel. So CPS has a corridor model, the west, east, and central model. And a lot of when we look at the dot maps or the travel maps from last calendar year or last school year and look at this year, we see a lot of trips that are just one-seat trips to places like Ethel Taylor or Evanston Junior High School, and not as many transfer trips, which reduces the total number of trips on the system. But we have a very similar number in terms of number of passes used this year. So we're not seeing a significant change, if that's helpful at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Government Square? Otherwise, I'll move us to action items. All right, action items, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. We'll go through the matrix here. I want to point out that Jason Rowe and the entire procurement team has been quite busy. We have 6 items here, along with the 21 part contracts we were talking about earlier. So they've been very busy. When you look at this page here, left side with a project, you'll see each of the 6 projects along with the associated strategic priority that we have, with that project. And Ms. Smith, you'll be happy to know that all 6 of these were some form of competitive bidding process for us this month. So I want to point that out as well. First item is the Government Square with MSA Design. It's a 3-year contract for about $492,000. This is for 4 phases. The first couple phases we'll be starting off with as Mr. Aiello mentioned. Second item up on the list is for HVAC repair and services and maintenance. That is going to be a 3-year contract as well, $1.169 million for Peck, Hannaford, and Briggs. Third item is with our Metro Now vehicles. These are 17 vehicles. Each vehicle is a little bit under $180,000 per. This is going to be for zones 5 and 6. We have 9 vehicles assigned for zone 5 and 8 for zone 6 to continue the growth of the Metro Now process here. Fourth item would be with Galls LLC for the maintenance uniforms. That's $276,900 for 3 years. And again, these are all, the ones I've talked about thus far are all budgeted, either budgeted capital or budgeted local. The fifth item here is for the buses, the articulated buses on our BRT line. Want to stop here for a second and add a bit more color for this one. We're seeing a lead time with these New Flyer vehicles anywhere between 18 and 30 months. What we're bringing forward today is a request from the committee here to move forward to the board for an approval for 12 of these vehicles. This is before we receive the known certainty of the CIG grant associated with the Reading line. The one thing I want to point out is with this contract, we have the ability to modify or cancel this contract without any penalty if we do not receive appropriate funding or support from the FTA. Want to highlight that before we go to the next item here. And this is, again, budgeted capital, 70% with the FTA, 30% with our local funds. The final item is with Masabi for some validators to replace some older validators we have, call it 5 years old. 470 total validators here. This item is unbudgeted, but it's something that we need to do this year because of the vehicles coming into our fleet. And also, these are older, and this will give us the ability for other payment options that we otherwise, without this upgrade, would not have, whether it be a smart card or an open payment option. Any questions from the committee here on any one of these 6 procurement items?
I don't have a question. I just want to make sure I'm restating what I understood you to say. On the New Flyer articulated buses, there's not if the CIG grant, something happens at the federal level or something changes, there's not a financial penalty for getting out of line on this. There might be a time penalty if we were to make a switch there, but it's not a financial.
That is correct. And we would also have the ability, if we so chose to use those vehicles elsewhere.
Got it. Okay. Just want to make sure I understood that. Any other questions? Hearing none, are there items that folks would like to leave off of the consent agenda? I might suggest the New Flyer contract because it's so large that we move to the normal agenda, but happy to move the rest of them to the consent agenda. Any objections to that? Okay. I'll make a motion to move items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 on this list to the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Ms. Sheets. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, those items will move over to the consent agenda. Item 5, the New Flyer contract, I'll move that, move approval for the full board.
Second.
Second by Mr. Etheridge. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention? Any objections? Any abstentions? All right, motion will move forward to the full board meeting. That's all of our business. Any new business to come before the committee?
I have a question, and Tim, something you said kind of jogged this. So Andy, probably for both of you. I know that over the past 5-6 years, we've talked about some of the deferred CapEx and expenses that are coming, things like Bond Hill, work that's been done there, Queensgate. Is there some sort of a snapshot of what that total, like the big wish list is of what we need to do? And then how is that accounted for in our current liabilities?
So when we look at it, it's not really accounted for in our current liabilities. We have actually 4 companies on our financial statements that Christine from Crow went through. On the operating fund, we look at this as just operating, not capital. We have a separate capital account. We do include, as part of this view of maintenance items going forward, any future purchases is part of our 5-year plan, Mr. McCurry. So we have a 5-year operating plan and a 5-year capital plan where we have the entire list. We look at that list, what is necessary, what is time sensitive, and we manage to that spend.
Okay. So I guess my larger question is, over the next even 5 to 8 years, as we look out, are there any large expenses coming that we know we are going to have to, should do? Because you can always Band-Aid something a little further along. But I'm trying to understand, like, is there something big out there that we know is there that we need to start thinking about?
We have everything that we need to think about and plan for the future spend is included in our plan. We don't have anything that's dangling out there naked right now.
Thank you.
One other
Ms. Amat?
question. For the, and excuse my ignorance on this, the electronic fare platform.
Yep.
Is this a platform where I can just use my credit card?
Correct. So right now we have when you board the bus and if you use the app
I have
and
the- yeah.
you pay by using that validator. The validator is the screen that reads your phone, right? And that validator is now 5 going on 6 years old. When we purchased it at the time, it was not the latest and greatest. two things that it struggles to do. One is it struggles with smart cards, which is something that we want to get into, which would allow a customer who doesn't have a phone to reload a card. Like, you know, if you go to DC, you can get a Metro card and you can load funds on it and tap. This validator and its technology is old and has struggled to do that well and consistently. The thing that it doesn't do categorically is open payment. And open payment is what Khaled mentioned, and that is I can pay with tap credit card, I can pay with my watch, I can pay like you do at the convenience store or the grocery store. The validators that we're recommending for approval are the next level and more modern validators that do all of those things.
Wonderful.
There are other systems that operate in this region that have the validators that we're trying to purchase, and they are able to do, and throughout the state, and they're able to do smart card and open payment. So we've seen open payment launch in other parts of the state with the updated validator. So we just need to do that to get the system and the technology up to be able to accommodate.
Okay, thank you.
If I may just add one thing, just for the record. So once we go through this retrofitting of the vehicles with the new validators, the initial deployment will not have open payment. It has the capability. We just want to focus on what we have, so we get that system up and running. And then it's just a matter of working with the vendor within a few weeks or a few months, whenever we want, we can turn the open payment on. Yeah.
I was just going to weigh in that it would improve customer experience and then influence ridership. So I think it's a good move.
Totally agree. The friction, the little friction as possible. That's great. All right, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Two more things, it sounds like.
Is Metro working with Cincinnati Public Schools as it relates to safe locks?
Not directly. We have constant communication with CPS administration. They purchase individual passes from our sales office. So that's another tool that they have if they need access or somebody needs to get to and from. We have a line of communication, but we're not directly involved in the project.
I know when we was talking about Government Square, I know that was one of the concerns of picking up families or students from Government Square and taking them to the safe lot. So
It is on a bus route.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any special routing or accommodation that we would need to do to make that connection.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So one final thing. This goes back to, I think, the increase in ridership. For the staff, obviously, gas prices aren't good for a lot of people, and that's why we see the ridership increasing. However, I know that a lot of work has been put into how do we increase our ridership and make it sticky. So once you experience it, try it out, you keep coming back. I would like, again, just to continue thinking about how does that work? Because we've seen gas prices go up, we've seen ridership go up in the past, then it drops off. And so are there different ways to think about how do we make it sticky so that we keep providing that value through convenience, even if gas gets cheaper again, which it will. We all know it will. Is it going to tomorrow? Probably not, unfortunately. So I want us to think about that because 2 months ago we were looking at ridership behind trend and really kind of static and showing that this is not going to continue. But what can we do after we get these riders on to keep them comfortable? And I know that it's safety, it's convenience, it's affordability, it's all those things that we already do. But if there's something else out there that we're not thinking of.
Great.
All right. Hearing no other conversation, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9:50. Thanks.